Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Thanks to the profound commitment of our citizens, we've flattened the curve and countless American lives have been saved. Our country is now in the next stage of the battle, a very safe, phased, and gradual reopening.
And that is what we're trying to do. What are the costs? At what cost? Wharton School out there in University of Pennsylvania did a health and economics effects of states reopening. It's very interesting because I also put somewhat of a value on human lives, a dollar value. I mean, everybody's prices. People say that. Look, let's be honest. There's some people out there, not so much. Other people, absolutely. Let's not baloney ourselves. Good cars, bad cars. We all know that. There are bad people out there. Chad, you just sound, what, honest? I know we hate it. Like, oh, my God, don't say that. But, I mean, I was thinking the same thing as you. But, you shouldn't say that. So they broke down several scenarios. Model 1, Model 2, Model 3. So scenario 1, 2, and 3. Here we go. States continue stay-at-home orders. By the end of June, 117,000 deaths, 18.6 million jobs gone. And by gone, most of those may not ever be coming back in any fashion whatsoever. Businesses, bankruptcies. Scenario 2, partial reopening. Half-assery, we'll call it. 162,000 additional deaths. 14 million jobs lost. Again, gone. Scenario 3. All states say, screw it, we're going to reopen, we're going to get on with our lives, and whatever's coming, we're going to take. End of June, 350,000 deaths, 500,000 jobs lost, economy back to where it was. The dollar value put on individuals, if you will, based on everything, is $10 million per person. Simulator they used from Johns Hopkins kind of showed something similar. Everybody's got some sort of simulator or model or this, that, and the other. Here's the reality of it. People are trying to figure out what they're supposed to do, where they're supposed to go. They don't know. We know everything that we think we need to know about the virus. We know it can kill. But the reality is, if we got the numbers, I think we'd be absolutely shocked by what the real numbers will look like, which we'll never know. We'll never know. Depending on which model you're looking at. It's 3% or it's just above the flu. I love how everybody says, you should just listen to science. And they go, well, this scientist said, well, he doesn't know, but your scientist does. Well, yeah, but this guy over here is an epidemiologist who works with several organizations and is the head guy for this country, but that person doesn't know, and your person does, who's at a think tank. We will never know what this loss is actually going to be, not only in human lives, but in dollars. They'll throw figures out there, 7 trillion, 10 trillion, 12 trillion. We'll never really know. But as individuals, you listening to me right now, your big concern is, when can I get back to my life? That's a tougher question because I don't know you. I don't know what your risk factors are, what your aversion to risk is. Some people will look at this and say, it is what it is. I'm going to have to learn to live with. I'm going to get out there and, you know what, I'll wash my hands a little bit more and I'll social distance as best as possible, but I'm not going to live my life hiding inside of a home. Other people, their risk aversion is huge. They don't want to come out until there's a true therapeutic and or some sort of vaccine, even though they know they must emerge. When they do, not only will they wash their hands, they'll wear a mask, and they'll social distance as much as possible, even more so. 6 feet? No, 12 feet. Then there's the rest of everybody. Is maybe in some place they may wear a mask, but they're going to get out and try to start living their lives. And the more that they live their lives, the more that they start to see things get back to some normal way of life, the more that fear will go away. But it is a time thing. It is not a tomorrow thing. So to answer everybody's question is, what's your risk factor? That's going to be the big thing. Your risk factor is going to be the thing that will drive this. If you are adverse to all kinds of risk and you're scared, which I can't look at people and say, to anybody, and say, well, you should do this based on these numbers, because the reality is you know you best. So I do my 2 shows. So Anthony and Phil, different risk factors. Then my other show, we have Lloyd. Lloyd here is our other producer, and he has some underlying health conditions. So he's social distance. He maybe comes into work once or twice a week. We Skype and do all kinds of things with him. Everybody's different. But to get the economy going, we're going to have to get back out there. And the economy is a huge factor. It's the one thing we all participate in. And the reality is we can't stay closed. It's just not possible. We can't stay closed. We can't tell every bank and mortgage lender and every single landlord, screw you, we're not paying rent. We just can't do it. We're going to have to get out there. The question is when. We've got to get reopened. There's no doubt about it. Well, what about lives? That's real. That is absolutely real. But it's not going anywhere. So with it not going anywhere, we must deal with the fact that it's here, and more countries are moving towards the Swedish model, which is we're going to have to learn to live with it until they figure something out. And I do believe they'll figure something out. And I don't think it's going to be 100%. I don't think it's going to. I think especially if it's seasonal, like everybody's saying, then we're looking at a situation where we will continually see this thing pop up from time to time. Maybe it is every year. Maybe it's every 3 or 4 years. But we'll get a shot, and maybe we'll have the therapeutics just like we do for the flu. And that will help. But the psychology of the economy is what people need to look at. What's your risk factor? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Speaking of risk, RBG.
Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been hospitalized with what they're calling an infection. Ginsburg, though, is 87 years old and, as you might know, has battled cancer 4 times now.
First question is, if you're right.
She is expected to participate in oral arguments via telephone on Wednesday as the High Court will hear a case involving the Affordable Care Act's contraceptive mandate.
Yeah, that's interesting. So she's going to hear a case, something to do with gallstones, but she is in the place that you would not want to be in her current situation. She's older, 87. She has battled cancer. I think she still has pancreatic cancer. She is in a position where she's also got other underlying health conditions, and now she's going to a hospital, which is usually a recipe for disaster. But she's a strong old lady. And I don't wish, I saw people yesterday when this came out, and, every liberal out there is freaking out, just praying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Not because they care about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, some of them do, but because of the court. And I was just like, I don't want anything to happen to the lady. I mean, she's 87, she's lived a great life, but the reality is she's 87. And she's holding on for dear life all the time because she's battled stuff. So, but she's going to hear arguments today. Tough old bird. She may not be as quick on the draw as she used to be. She's still sharp as ever. So I don't want anything to happen to her. But talk about the recipe. Like, if you could paint what you would not want to have happen to somebody, to have to go to the hospital, she would be the poster. Compromised immune system, other underlying health conditions, elderly, headed to the Petri dish. But the one thing is she's in a position where her care is probably different than a lot of other people's care. I told Anthony she's probably in a special hospital where they just built it for her, and she's going to be all right. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Are you quarantining?
This weekend's been really rough. I quarantined with some friends. We tried to go to this restaurant, but it was takeout only. So we went to my friend's house, who has a patio, and we all quarantined there together. We would try to go to Palm Springs, but the Airbnb I usually get is booked. So then we did a quarantine hike, and then quarantined at my friend's pool, and now I'm just home, super bored, but I am meeting up with some people later, so I can't wait for this all to be over.
There's a lot of people out there. Yeah, we're all going to quarantine over here. Well, isn't that the... You can't keep human beings down. We need each other. Very few people don't want to be around other people, right? Not everybody's Ted Kaczynski. Like, he's the greatest, outside of Bigfoot, the greatest social distancer of all time. But not everybody's that. And that's a little bit much, but it is kind of funny that we're all going to quarantine together. It's like one of our other producers, he quarantines with his 4 roommates. Who then all have their girlfriends come over, so it's not quite the quarantine that we think it was. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. I like saving you guys money. I like working with great companies. Lightstream does that. They're a great company, and they're going to help you save money. Average credit card rate is over 19% APR. So why don't you roll your balances over from multiple credit cards in one single, manageable, cheaper monthly loan payment. You can get a rate as low as 5.95% APR with auto pay, much lower than that national average of over 19% APR. No fees. Absolutely no fees. Application quick and easy. You can do it 100% online. You can even get your money as soon as the same day you apply. And on top of that, I'm going to give you a special interest rate discount where you can save even more. The only way to get this is to go to lightstream.com/Benson. lightstream.com/Benson. Subject to credit approval. Rate includes 0.50% auto pay discount. Terms and conditions apply. Offer subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/Benson for more information. Chad Benson Show.
Don't let the Washington Beltway strangle you. This is where the exhausted majority comes to refuel, realign, and reevaluate. This is Chad Benson.
Some of these states are relaxing guidelines.
No, that assumes no mitigation. And we're going to have mitigation. No, we're letting people out. But the fact that we're letting people go to their jobs, they have to do it. You know, if they held people any longer with the shutdowns, and you're going to lose people that way, too. And you already have, I'm sure. Between drug abuse and, they say suicide, a lot of different things. There's no win. There's no great win one way or the other.
Trump's right. Look, he doesn't open it up. There is going to be massive losses on the economic side that could take 2, 3, 5, maybe a decade. He opens it up, and there are losses on the human side of it. That is, it's like yesterday, he didn't wear a mask. Oh my God, he's the leader of the free world. He should be wearing a mask. No, he shouldn't. It just wasn't a good look. Look, the reality is when it comes to, he's not like us. Can we just all stop saying, he's just like us? He should be. No, he's not. All right? You don't have your own private everything with your cars being delivered 2 days before you arrive. So when you get off the plane, you get on your car, you drive a quarter of a mile to where he went yesterday, or a mile to Honeywell or whatever. It wasn't very far away. And then you go inside and you do all of this stuff. He's tested every day, as is everybody around him. It's just, I don't care. People were upset. But it was one of those things where it didn't matter. If people I hope he wears a mask, because if he does, we can totally make fun of him. And if he doesn't, then we can talk about what a jerk he is. I'm like, wow, that's your, that's your thing. It's like, oh, would you like the guillotine or the noose? Those are my choices. Can't win. Cannot win. But there is no good answer here. The answer is you open up your state, your economy. If you open it too soon and there's a spike, and there will be, people are going to say you opened it too soon, you're a bad person. You open it too late, tons of people file for bankruptcy, your economy's, people say you wait too long. You cannot win. Doesn't matter. There is no good choice. These are the best bad options we have. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Speaking of bad options, does this get any worse than the stupidity of trying to overthrow a government?
This group of outside military defectors was trying to take the country by force, and they were intercepted at sea. At least 8 of them were killed, but a second wave came on Monday. Another ship, and on that ship, 2 U.S. citizens were among those captured. Maduro was on state TV Monday night, waving those 2 Americans' passports around, blaming the Trump administration and his neighbor Colombia for being behind the operation.
Operation had no chance. That's what do we call this? Operation Have No Chance? Yeah. Gilligan? So you got Arian Berry, 41, and Luke Denman. Why would you bring your passport? just I'm curious as to why you'd bring your passports. Do you have everything? Do you have your traveler's checks? You do? Okay, great. You bring it. Make sure you bring your passport. Otherwise, we can't cash those. So they were popped. 13 terrorists, as they call them, idiots, to say the least. Who was behind it? That's what everybody wants to know. I no idea. Do I think the U.S. government was behind this? Not something this week. This just seems like some guys who thought they were going to go do some stuff. They were going to liberate a country with other people. And boom, this was going to happen. And it didn't happen. And Maduro's a bad person. And now he gets to stay in there a little bit longer because Operation Have No Chance failed. It's not like Cuba. Cuba, they were able to get into to Cuba, and it was an easier thing. This was just hilariously poorly planned, and I have a feeling those guys are going to be in Venezuela for quite a while. But they have their passports. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson shows your Twitter. Oh my God. How do you even start a conversation? Hey, what are you doing next weekend? We're going to storm Venezuela. Would you like to come? I'll put you down as a maybe. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The people aren't going to accept it. They won't accept it, and they shouldn't accept it. We have a great country. We can't keep it closed. I mean, I've had doctors say, well, why don't we close it for a couple of years? This is the United States of America. I created, with a lot of other very talented people and the people of our country, the greatest economy in the history of the world. And then one day they said, we have to close our country. Well, now it's time to open it up. And you know what? The people of our country are warriors.
You didn't create anything, so let's just slow your roll. But you did help facilitate the growth of the country. That I will give you. 100%. If you're going to take the blame, and everybody wants to assign blame because we're into that, like, whose fault is this? You've got to give him credit. And I can't say that he failed this economy because of this. I've also seen that. You know, Nancy Pelosi came out a couple weeks ago and said, this is all Trump's fault, the economy. Really? Really? You clown. No. But America's not going to stand for it. We need to reopen. We want to reopen. How do we go about doing it? It's very interesting. So this guy, his name is Johan Giesecek, or I can't. He's Swedish. He is an epidemiologist. The guy is leading, along with the Mr. Teller, what Sweden is doing over there. And it's very interesting. And by the way, he's not some kook that, like, I was talking to somebody yesterday. He's like, yeah, that's probably some kook scientist who's not even really a scientist. I'm like, you're right. He's a physician, professor of Emeritus at the Karolinska Institute of Stockholm. He also happens to be a molecular structure biologist as well as an infectious disease epidemiologist, but he has no idea what he's talking about. So There you go. And he's also part of the strategic and technical advisory group for this thing called the World Health Organization. And he didn't buy a lot of the crap that they were talking about. But he brought up some great points about what Sweden's doing. He said, first of all, we knew what was coming. He goes, but does everybody else know what's happening? And by the way, do you even know how to get out of it? That's huge. Like war, right? We talk about that with war. Like, we're great at getting into stuff, but nobody ever has a plan to get out of it.
Because I don't think any government that I know gave a minute's thought about how they would get out of the different lockdowns that are installed. Take a school closure, for example. If you close the schools, when are you going to open them? What's the criteria? I don't think anyone thought about that when the closure was decided on.
No, I don't think anybody did. Because I think people thought, because what you have is, and it's different in countries like Sweden or many other countries because it's one uniform thing. We have 50 different states that operate independently of the federal government. And inside of those states, we have little itty bitty municipalities and some bigger ones who operate even in different capacity than the states themselves. So you're looking at 2-3 times removed from certain things. So some of them were making their decision to do certain things based on, well, this seems like the right thing to do. But nobody ever thought about, are we going to be heading back? How do we do this? What does it look like? Just like with the economy. Sweden's economy hasn't really suffered. The suffering that is going on in a lot of Sweden's economy is based on the fact that a lot of other people and nations around the country, around the world, are suffering as well. But he's not finished.
Seeing is a tsunami of a rather mild infection spreading around the globe. And I think there's very little chance to stop it by any measure we take. Most people will become infected by this, and most people won't even notice. We have data now from Sweden that shows that between 98 and 99% of the cases have had a very mild infection or didn't even realize they were infected.
Think about that. 98 to 99% of people had a mild infection based on their data. Was their data any good? I think their data is okay. You can't pick and choose here. And this is the problem with this thing. It's coming from here. It's flying over there. It's flying. But these things are important in getting back to the world of us getting back to a normal way of life. And why it's important is because part of the thing, especially when it comes to the economy, is getting back out there in the world and working and spending money, feeling comfortable knowing that your job's not going anywhere, feeling comfortable knowing that, hey, I can go out and do some stuff and be around people without having to worry about being infected with something that they see as a death sentence, and it's not.
Wow. So we have this spread of this mild disease around the globe, and most of it is happening where we don't see it. It's among people that don't get very sick, spread it to someone else that doesn't get very sick. And what we're looking at is a thin layer at the top of people who do develop disease, an even thinner layer of people that go into intensive care, and an even thinner layer of people who die. But the real outbreak is happening where we don't see it.
Yeah, that's the real outbreak, which is us, right? That's the real outbreak as far as the average person. Many of you listening would probably be surprised if you tested today, you test positive for the antibodies. And you'd be like, I didn't even know I had it. So the death toll, because we see the number, we see all of these things, and we hear that it's this percent or that percent, and that's the number that everybody looks at, and oh my Lord.
Now, you mentioned that the overwhelming majority of people who get this disease have no symptoms or very minimal symptoms. Do we even know the real fatality rate of coronavirus? And what is it?
Well, it's around 0.1%.
We were told it was 3% initially, 2%. Are you saying now if it's 0.1, that's pretty much the same fatality rate as the regular flu, isn't it?
I think it's a bit higher, actually. I have said before in Sweden that this is like a severe influenza. I don't think that's completely true. It will be a bit more severe than influenza, but not maybe double, but not tenfold.
Not tenfold, maybe double, but not tenfold. Ask yourself, if you hear something like that, if you see the numbers and realize that the majority of the people that are dying have underlying health conditions that even if they've got the flu, it would cause a real problem. Yeah, people who are healthy get the flu and die. So we act like the flu only affects a certain amount of people. Kids get the flu and die. Adults who are healthy get the flu and die. It does happen. Data is important because with data, we can start to see how this thing can play itself out. And part of that is getting to the point where we can understand in justify in our own mind how to get back out there. And that is important. That is absolutely important. I'll go over this again. Wharton School of Business, University of Pennsylvania, 3 scenarios to reopening. Scenario 1, stay-at-home orders continue, 117,000 deaths by the end of June, almost 19 million jobs lost. Most of those jobs won't be coming back. Scenario 2, partial reopening, half-assery I call it, 162,000 additional deaths, 14 million jobs lost. Scenario 3, all states fully reopened, 350,000 deaths, 500,000 jobs lost. Questions are being asked across the board about what to do. Every state's going to make their own choice. But once we go, we have to go. Because the one thing I don't ever hear being asked that needs to be asked and actually answered is, what are you going to do when there is a spike? Because there will be a spike. And what are you going to do when it comes back and it's a little bit more of a spike? Are you going to shut things down again? Because business owners, many of them I've talked to, restaurant owners especially, say they can withstand this. They can't withstand the second one. And you would see 50 to 60% of small businesses and restaurants go out of business. That's 18.6 million jobs, and many of those won't be coming back. And when they do, it'll be a long time before we get back to that level. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. This is absolutely hilarious. So Jim Justice, governor, West Virginia, Republican. He used a bad word. You can hear it. He used a bad word. He denies it.
I encourage all businesses that are allowed to open to do so only if they can follow the guidelines to keep West Virginians safe. Today at our news briefing, there was an audio glitch, and it sounded like that I had said a bad word, a word that I would never say, nor have I ever said. No possibility in any way, shape, form, or fashion. If they can follow the guidelines to keep West Virginians safe.
First of all, he denied it. You can hear it. Maybe you screwed up. I don't think you meant it, obviously. But I love the deny. I would never, ever, ever, ever say it. You would say something like that. Don't ever say you would never say that. Producer Phil, I'm going to ask you an honest question, like you'd be honest with me. How many times a day do you accidentally drop the F-bomb?
Never accidentally at all.
Yeah. Do you cuss, Chad? Blanking, yeah. Are you kidding me? I'm like, son of a... I got to work on not doing that. Of course. Now, our crack team has uncovered some other stuff. The unedited version of Jim Justice's denial. And we're crack team.
Today at our news briefing, there was an audio glitch, and it sounded like that I had said a bad word, a word that I would never say, nor have I ever say. No possibility in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
Love it. I love the denial too. You said it. Get over it. Sorry, it was an accident. My God, look at the president we have now. How many F-bombs a day do you think he drops behind closed doors? By the way, speaking of Jim Justice, pretty successful cat too. It's worth about $1.2 billion mining magnet, I guess they would call him. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. But he blankety blank is successful. Tell you that right now. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Car Shield shall blankety blank shield you from blankety blank things that may blankety blank happen to you. You've got a car. You love it. Got a great deal on it. Paid cash. But you don't have a warranty. It's got some newer stuff, the electronics, the GPS, and all that stuff. And you're worried, what if this goes out? What's that going to cost? Well, it probably costs a lot. So get yourself some Cash Shield to protect you in the inevitability at some point in time something's going to go wrong. Maybe your car's a little bit older. Worry about the transmission and whatnot. Car Shield. Plans start as low as $99 a month. For that, you get a rental car for free. You get 24/7 roadside assistance in a rental car. And you get to choose the shop. So you call them up, say, hey, my car broke down, something happened. They say, do you need us to take it somewhere? Yeah, if you could, they'll come pick it up. And you get to choose where you want it to go. They get them paid directly. You pay a small deductible. Again, plans start as low as $99 a month. Blankety blank indeed. Call 800-CAR-6000. Mention code Benson. That'll save you 10% right off the top. That's 800-CAR-6000. Code Benson saves you 10%. Or carshield.com, carshield.com. Use code Benson to save 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad blankety blank Benson Show.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
Space. The final frontier.
Outer space really is the final frontier when it comes to movie making. No one's made a movie above the planet, and now Tom Cruise apparently wants to change that. Deadline reports that Cruise is working with SpaceX founder Elon Musk to make the first ever narrative feature film shot in space. No real details yet about plot, co-stars, or release date. This appears to be in the very early stages. But if anyone can pull something like this off, it's extreme stuntman / actor Tom Cruise.
Yeah, and Elon Musk, because that seems like something he wants to do. Just because. He just put his homes up for sale. Said last week, I'm selling my stuff. Selling all my possessions. Just had a baby, too. He's a trip. With, he comes across very Howard Hughesy. If you know anything about Howard Hughes, was a recluse at times, and he had all the women, and he was the party boy. He had all the stuff. He had great vision, but with a lot of that comes a lot of madness. And Elon Musk at times comes across that way. And if you hear people talk about what it's like to work with him, they said they'd come into work at like 5 a.m. and they'd look down and he's sleeping underneath a desk, and he's one of those guys that's go, go, go. And Tom Cruise if there's somebody who could pull it off, and he does his own stunts. You watch a lot of these Mission Impossible movies, that's him. Like on the side of an airplane, that's him. I wonder what the insurance looks like on that, because you have to have insurance. So every movie that's like real Hollywood movie, all of them have insurance on all of the actors in the event that they die on set or just die in general. They OD, something like that. Some of it's bigger than others. Just in case they start to shoot a movie and something happens to one of the actors, that they can either go back and reshoot the movie or they can abandon the movie and the insurance will cover the cost of everything. And so all of them do. All big ones do. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Baseball is kind of back, and it's the Korean Baseball League.
Guys, it's baseball. It really is. And is it the superstar names that we're used to? Absolutely not. Do they have the same ability as Mike Trout? Obviously not. Not a lot of people have that. The elite end up, yes, in Major League Baseball, but there are players that have played in Major League Baseball that are there right now.
Yeah, and the Korean League's interesting. There's 10 teams. The only real difference is the level of play is not as good. It's Florida Marlins or AAA. That's what I said. It's kind of Florida Marlins or AAA. And you get some major leaguers, and people say, why would anybody want to go over there and play? Japan and Korea offer a lot of guys who are, my dad used to call them, because my dad played pro baseball, he'd call them 4A players. So AAA is below Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is the place. There's a lot of guys who are 4A. They're too good to be in AAA, but they're not quite good enough to hold down a full-time position in Major League Baseball. So they bounce back and forth. So a lot of guys go over there because the money. So you're making, if you're one of those players who's an older player, maybe in your late 20s, got some Major League experience, but you can play, they go and get you, and you could stay there on a 40-man roster, which is what happens in baseball, and you get $200,000 a year, or you can make $200,000 a month, have everything paid for, and treat you like a king, including moving, getting you your own house, which they pay for. They cover everything, and financial stability. That's why people go do it. Heck yeah. They came to me and said, Chad, I'll pay you $1 million a year to play baseball. I'll say, absolutely. I'm not really good at baseball, but I appreciate you paying me $1 million a year to do it. But I'd go, because that's the kind of guy I am. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
I understand you don't want to keep the country closed for 5 years, but don't you want your advisors to keep looking at this closely the way you have?
They are looking at it very closely. And I just said it today. I used the word for the first time, I think, in terms of what we're doing. I'm viewing our great citizens of this country, to a certain extent and to a large extent, as warriors. They're warriors. We can't keep our country closed. We have to open our country.
We do. Can we just be honest about that? Say the things that we actually mean rather than what's, I don't want to say politically expedient, but the reality is politically correct. What are the real numbers? Well, we're never going to know. But what are the real numbers? We know some of the real numbers. We know that the people that this affects are people who are not just talking about 20 pounds overweight, but really overweight. We know that people that it affects really, really bad are people with underlying health conditions. We know that. We know the people that this affects are older people. We know that. So how do we get ourselves back to work? Protect the people that need to be protected as best as possible, making sure that we're washing our hands extra. Not just when we go to the bathroom, maybe when we go from room to room and we touch a door that we're not familiar with and we're not the only person in there, that we have something we can, but being smart about it and social distancing without being ridiculous. But what we can't do is stay locked down. University of Pennsylvania has Wharton Business School. I believe President Trump was a graduate of Wharton Business School. They did a scenario, right? Study. Everybody's got a study. You know who doesn't have a study, but I'm going to have one? We're going to have a Chad Show study. We're going to do it. Not quite sure what it is, but it won't be scientific. I can tell you that. Because we don't have any scientists to work for us. I don't have that kind of money to pay a scientist to do a study for us. We could pretend that we could. We could say this is scientifically proven but unproven, like most of these models are. The only reason people watch these models, they're scientists. We got to listen to scientists. Every one of the models is completely different. So here's their road to recovery. Now, this is based upon economic data as well as scientific medical data. So this is not just based on one thing, because this is more about the road to recovery, meaning the economy. Scenario one. We're all in doors. We're all in doors scenario. 117,000 deaths by the end of June. 18.6 million jobs have been lost, many of which will never return. Job loss is not unemployment. Job lost is jobs that are lost. Bankruptcies, when they do rehire, they rehire at a small fraction of what they need. These are jobs that are bye, gone. Scenario 2, we call the half-assery scenario, which is kind of what we're in the middle of right now. Partial reopening, 162,000 additional deaths, 14 million jobs lost. Ooh. Scenario 3 is the full Monty. We're going in. We're doing this. This is the way it looks. 350,000 deaths, 500,000 jobs lost. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. There's just the answer that you choose. I don't know which way your state is going to do it, and I have no idea what your risk aversion is. It's your risk aversion. I am going to be completely careful, and I'm not going to go anywhere. No matter what ends up happening, I'm not going to do anything, because if I do anything, I put myself in a bad situation, and I don't know what that is. For some people, it's like, you know what? I'm just going to live my life. I can't live in fear. I don't want to live inside all the time. And the good majority of us, I would say the exhausted majority, as we talk about in the political world, is we're going to get out there. We'll recognize that maybe we should stay further away from things. We're not going to congregate in massive crowds, but we're also not going to avoid everything at all cost. But the psychological aspect of it is very real. Johann Giska is a epidemiologist, big nerd, was talking about the numbers, the real data that comes in that they're looking at in Sweden, about what is the real number side of things when it comes to the mortality rate, because that's what a lot of people look at. The infection rate, they're saying in Sweden, it's more about 98 to 99% of people who are infected with this will never know they have it. So it's much bigger than even we're talking about here, but their data says that. Let's just say it's in between, and it's 87 to 90% of people will never know they have it. That's a large group of people. But what's the mortality rate?
Around 0.1%.
We were told it was 3% initially, 2%. Are you saying now if it's 0.1, that's pretty much the same fatality rate as the regular flu, isn't it?
I think it's a bit higher, actually. I had said before in Sweden that this is like a severe influenza. I don't think that's completely true. It will be a bit more severe than influenza, but not maybe double, but not tenfold.
Which is important, especially when you're talking about the psychology of individuals who are going to go back out and participate in the world, that if you thought this was just a little bit more dangerous than the flu, and I say dangerous, they talk about the deadly, it's like it's the murder wasp. It's not a murder wasp. It's a giant Asian hornet. We call it the murder wasp. It's like we're putting it on trial. What are you doing, man? To put it on trial? Well, I murdered somebody. Does that change the way that you look at things? If the data comes back and it says these are the groups that really could be in danger, and I say could be because, remember, a lot of people who are older will catch this and they won't die. They'll fight it off and survive. We make it seem like if you're over 65 and you have an underlying health condition that you're going to get this and die, and that's not true either. But if this is 0.02%, the flu's 0.01%, does that make you look at things differently, especially when it comes to living your life? Because living your life will be part of the economy, which is going out, going to restaurants, going out to the movies, going to sporting events, participating in the economy on a day-to-day basis. Will this make you feel better? Because we come at it always from it's the death sentence. It's not a death sentence. But we do come at it as far as the media does, like always. With their CNN and everybody else has their tote board. Like it's Jerry Lewis telethon. And, let's go over the numbers. Whoa, 72,000. Stupid. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Do love hearing from every single one of you. I just look at this And I feel like the more that we know, the better it's going to be for us. And the data that we need to see is data across all age groups, data across just a lot of different things that we need to really get a hold on. And the problem that we have is I don't feel we have really good data, and I feel that we have too much conflicting data, and too many places are pulling and picking and choosing some of the data that they want to use to get across their message. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. I do love hearing from every single one of you. When we're looking for new things to watch, when we're looking for things that we should be doing to get away from this chaos and craziness, maybe a movie.
I am from the south side of Chicago.
The new Netflix documentary, Becoming, follows Michelle Obama on a recent book tour, talking to crowds and holding intimate chats with fans.
So little of who I am happened in those 8 years. So much more of who I was happened before.
Becoming is from Michelle and Barack Obama's Higher Ground production company, which has an exclusive deal with Netflix.
This is totally me, unplugged for the first time.
Becoming is streaming Wednesday on Netflix.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I find her interesting. It's weird. Yeah, I do. I do find her very interesting. And the interest is, what's her next move? You know, Barack's done you're nothing, you know, outside of being a father, which I always say is the most important thing ever. He's not going to do anything bigger than being president of the United States. What is she going to do? Because she's still young. She obviously has aspirational goals herself. Could she potentially get into politics? I think there's no doubt that she is. Does she do a Hillary? Does she start as a senator? Does she move into, if Biden was to win, the cabinet? It's a possibility. Girls are old enough now that it's not like they're going to be under that kind of microscope in those kind of situations in D.C. So you would think about it, right? If you're her. And if I'm her, I would listen to Biden. I would absolutely 100% listen to whatever Biden had to say if he's serious about this. I would for sure listen. But with the caveat of, I'll only do this if you guarantee you're only doing 4 years and then I'm going to be the person. I would want assurances everywhere of that. Then how could you not listen? Everybody's got a price, people. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. I think the vice president would be a cool job because you're really not under that kind of pressure. You kind of get to be cool with everybody. Go out and you do your thing. You don't have to really worry too much about stuff. I think that would be a fun gig. If you were going to say politics wise, like nobody hates Dan Quayle. Like even Mike Pence. Nobody Trump, like it does. You have a strong feeling for the guy, that's the person, but yet nobody, I didn't dislike, I mean, I had my differences with Trump and I don't dislike Pence. I didn't dislike Dan Quayle. I don't dislike Joe Biden. Like Dick Cheney's about the only one where everybody roundly goes, he's kind of, but outside of that, it's not the worst gig. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Text the program as well. Wounded Paw Project, amazing organization, works with veterans, first responders, and their family by helping them with service dogs. Dogs that would be euthanized, that they rescue from shelters and then train them to be service dogs. And they help out our nation's heroes. And right now they need your help. They're building a huge team because they're getting inundated, especially from first responders and all that's going on right now. And they really do need your help. Now, there's several ways you can give. And go to smile.amazon.com, set your supporting group to Wounded Paw Project. They also accept cash, but the quickest way to do it is turn your extra car, truck, RV, even a boat into a vehicle for change. They say you'll be saving a paw to save a life, and how true is that? It is incredible. The proceeds will be used to protect, advocate, and transform shelter dogs into service dogs for our veterans, first responders, and their family. Find out how you can give by going to woundedpawproject.org or calling 844-678-4PAW, 844-678-4729, woundedpawproject.org. You'll be saving a paw to save a life. Chad Benson Show.
You go, boy.
This isn't about right or left. This is just about right and wrong.
Right you are, Chad. The Chad Benson Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? National Nurses Day. Is it week? I don't, there's so many of these things. It's National Nurses Day. All right. The other day, for 4 days, I saw, Teacher Appreciation Day. I'm like, well, what day is it? Every day you should appreciate a teacher. So it's National Nurses Day. So just letting you know that. Some other things trending in the world of Twitter. Lockdown extension. How much longer are people going to be locked down? Hump Day, obviously. Justice for Hamad, and we will talk about that later. You had a guy that was jogging when two, how should I say this, cracker rednecks jump out of a truck and shoot him dead because they thought he was apparently a burglar, because that's exactly what joggers do. They're like, hey, I know I'm jogging and I don't have anything that looks like I would steal something, so I'm going to go and, rob you. Just, it's ridiculous. And there is a video of it, and you're like, what is this all about? We'll talk about that in a little bit. Top of that, you're going over to Google. Number one trending thing right now is Adele. So Adele turned 32, and she sent out her wishes, as you tend to do, especially nowadays in the world of social media. But people are commenting about the fact that she's so thin. I said she looks a little bit like Katy Perry, which she kind of does. But people now they're criticizing her for being too thin. They're criticizing her for being, and then, then you've got the usual, she lost weight because she wants to be beautiful, and all people are beautiful. No, not all people are beautiful. Can we just put that out there? There are plus-size models. There's a few of them, and have you seen them? They're ridiculous. They're gorgeous. But she has lost a lot of weight. I mean, she is extremely thin. It's crazy. Greg Gutfeld is trending as well. Fox News, because his show has actually topped the late night shows. That is kind of funny. That is. It's once a week on Saturdays, but it's outpacing broadcasts with quadruplest episodes. In April, the top late night show in broadcast and cable brought in an average of 2.862 million viewers. He is outdoing all of them, and that is kind of funny. He's beating Jimmy Kimmel and Fallon and Stephen Colbert. It's kind of funny, and they have a lot more time. And you would think a bigger audience, but no. Greg Gutfeld is doing his thing. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Would you pay extra to make sure that seat on the airplane next to you is empty? Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
I want to be optimistic. I don't want to be Mr. Gloom and Doom. It's a very bad subject.
I'm not looking to tell the American people when nobody really knows what's happening yet, oh, this is going to be so tragic. I want to be, aside from everything else, and I'm going to use a term, and some people love it, and some people hate it, but I love it. I want to be a cheerleader for our country.
Yeah. Of course. Who doesn't? So one thing that, when it comes to the economy, you know, one of the things they talked about the other day with Trump is he lacks empathy. And there's something there. I don't think he doesn't show it the way that other people do. You're not going to see him crying. You're not. It's like my grandfather, both my grandfathers were like this. Stoic men, came from a different generation. They, later in life, they softened a bit. But when I was growing up, they were hard. They were hard men. There was no nonsense about them. And they didn't show that empathy that your mom would show or grandma would show. But you also knew they cared. And we live in a much more touchy-feely time where it's okay to cry. It's okay to have feelings. It's okay. That's not his generation. And he's not that kind of guy. He's a straightforward, straight shooter. Like, this is what it is. With Trump, he didn't say sorry. Comes to that Roy Cohn playbook in life. You never apologize. I watch a great show on Sunday nights. It's called Billions. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a great show. Paul Giamatti's in it, and it is just amazing. Damon Lewis is in it. And it's about hedge funds and the financial world, and you've got the New York district attorneys, Paul Giamatti, and you've got you've got all of these people, and they battle each other. But one of the things is this Axelrod guy who Damian Lewis plays he just never apologizes. That's not his playbook. He grew up different, a little bit harder in life, and he's straightforward, and you'll never hear him say he's sorry. And that's kind of a Trump thing. Doesn't show weakness in certain ways. That's just a way that he lives his life. And I don't have a problem with that, but a lot of people do. And we need people that are going to be, yes, I'm going to say it, cheerleaders for the company. We need a country. We need people that are going to be optimistic. And Trump brings some of those things out. He's had to make huge decisions.
Actually, the decision to close the country was the biggest decision I've ever had to make. And I've said that very loud and clear. I mean, we had the greatest economy in history, in the history of the world. Not only our economy, it was our greatest economy. Best employment numbers, best numbers in every single way. And they said, sir, we have to close the country. I said, what are you talking about, close the country? Because nobody's ever heard of such a thing. And we saved millions of lives by doing it.
Yeah, we did. We saved millions of lives by doing it. Maybe, kind of. I'm not sure if we did or didn't save millions of lives. I don't know what it's going to look like in the next 6 months to 6 years, and if this thing is or isn't going to be going away at any time soon, or what's going to take place. But I think people look at Trump in two different ways. He's this horrible, hard man who doesn't care, and all he cares about the economy. And I don't think that to be true. He just doesn't show things in a certain way that makes people happy. Right? Even with apologies, you ever see when a star screws up, and you're looking for, like, you want them to apologize in a certain way that if they apologize in a different way, you think it's not right. They didn't show enough empathy. They weren't contrite enough in the way that I wanted them. That's a lot of what Trump is. Yes, Trump cares about the economy, as he should. He's going to get judged on it, as he should care about the economy. We all do. We all participate in it. And right now, we're looking at 20 million jobs that potentially could be lost. Not jobs that are out there that will eventually come back when everything gets back to whatever we're going to get back to, but jobs that potentially could be gone. Now, new jobs will crop up out of it, but it will take a long time to get there. It's finding the right time to mitigate those losses, as well as doing the right way to mitigate the losses on the health side of things. These are the best bad options we have at this moment in time. Whichever path he picks, the other side is going to blame him for acting too rashly or not acting fast enough or acting too slowly. You can't win, kids. You just can't win. You can't. At the end of the day, we're still America. We're busting our ass. We're going to get out of this, and it is going to take us some time. It's not going to be an overnight thing. I still think that we've got a decent foundation, and albeit it's cracked in certain areas, and we're going to have to rebuild some of that. But we will get out of this, and we're finding more and more every day that there are tests out there, that there are things out there that are happening. That is awesome, especially when it comes to things like, yes, finding potentially this crazy, magical vaccine that we're speeding at the speed of light.
This is a virus that we knew nothing about 5 months ago. And the fact that we already have multiple vaccines in clinical trials is cause for optimism.
Absolutely. Kathleen Newsell, doctor, talking about why we should be optimistic. The fact that we are heading at this thing at the speed of light that is unprecedented globally.
Rather than, for example, with an influenza vaccine, where we may give you an inactivated piece of the virus, here we're giving the genetic code to the volunteers, and then that genetic code is telling our own cells to make that protein, that surface protein that looks like the virus protein.
Yeah. So that's interesting. How does that look? How does that play itself out? What's that look like at the end of the day? Unlike a flu shot, is it going to be 100%? Because when the flu, you don't get the 100%. You get it. Possible it works. It's possible it might not. But we're going into it in a much faster way than we ever have before. So that should be optimistic. Doesn't mean we're going to get there tomorrow. Doesn't mean we're going to get there 6 months from now. Doesn't mean we're going to get there ever. But knowing we're doing things at the speed of light compared to the way that things have gone in the past is cause for optimism that we're going to get there. And I think as we start to find out more and more of these numbers and we look around, there is going to be opportunities to change so much of what we've done in the past to make our lives better. I'm optimistic about the future. I always am, because being pessimistic just sucks. Yeah, it's a tough time right now, but we're going to get back. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. So for one of the industries that's just getting destroyed is the travel industry. Saw today Norwegian doesn't think it's going to survive. People are rethinking cruises altogether. For years, the joke is it's been a giant, petri dish. It's just, you're floating around in a mini city of captive people who can't go anywhere, right? And you're floating around. People are shoulder to shoulder. They're hanging out. They're in close proximity to each other on a second-by-second basis. You're going in elevators. You're walking down small hallways. It's a recipe for disaster when it comes to something like this. It's going to take a long time, and some companies don't think they're going to make it. Airline industry is struggling tremendously. This is worse than 9/11, and they're making serious, hard decisions on how they go about doing the things that they're going to be needing to do to lure passengers in. Again, what's going to make you feel safe? Social distancing. And let me tell you something. The amount of money airlines are losing is Lufthansa, the biggest airlines in the world. They're losing $1 million an hour. Oh, $24 million a day. Every day an airplane doesn't fly. So like you see one of these 737s, that's $1 million that company's losing a day on that airplane. Oh, so they have to fix something in people's minds to make it feel like they have to give them something. We got to fix them. We got to make you feel like it's safe and the social distancing, because you're already in this, cylindrical thing flying through the sky and it's just recirculated air. We don't want you to get sick. So what do we do?
It's not the hustle and bustle of an airport that we're used to seeing, but travelers are again taking to the skies.
We'll see a lot of changes, that's for sure.
I saw a lot of change flying into there.
At Denver International Airport, that means new social distancing measures, hand sanitizing stations, and soon everyone must have a mask on.
Right now, we don't have any other alternative.
In addition to masks, airlines have introduced new cleaning procedures and their own version of social distancing. On Frontier, an extra $40 ensures an empty seat beside you.
Now, producer Phil, you and I were talking. We've joked about this for years. I'd pay money to have nobody sit next to me.
Oh, yeah, no kidding.
I mean, right? Like, that's awesome. Some of the other stuff they floated out there is ridiculous. Like, okay, you're going to face one direction, person next to you facing the other. That's not real. That's not. But for most people, you would pay $40, right? You're charging me $40 for my luggage. Hell yeah, I'll pay $40 to have nobody sit next to me.
We just recognize that some people want a little more comfort and convenience.
CEO Barry Biffle says with flight loads starting to bounce back, they can't make the change without a fee.
It's just simple economics. About a third of the aircraft is middle seats. So that would mean if we want to do that permanently, that would mean everyone needs to pay 50% more.
Yeah. At least for now. One of the things that's going to start happening in the future is you're going to find out that flights are going to start to go up in price because they're going to have to make up things elsewhere. There's going to be less flights because there's going to be less demand. But who doesn't want that middle seat to be empty if you fly coach?
Some travelers disagree and say it's a charge they can work around.
It seems like it should be part of the flight experience. I've heard that other airlines are making a determination to make the middle seat open without any additional costs.
Others see it as business.
Each airline, has their own philosophy. They're going to do what they have to do to try and survive.
Yeah, and that's exactly what a lot of this is, trying to survive. But I think most of us would pay $39 to have an empty seat next to. Here's the funny thing, though. You think, well, that's all fine. That's only if it's you. Think about if there's 3 seats and they're charging you $39 and they're charging the person next to them $39. Then you've got taxes and everything else and all this other stuff. It ends up being $50 a piece. Well, because there'll be special fees and there'll be baggage fees for the seat that you bought that doesn't have anybody in it with baggage. So you see what I'm going with this. They'll figure it out. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Raycon, best earbuds around. You're at home today. Your kids are screaming. Wah! They're going crazy. Wah! You're trying to do work. Got a video conference call. Maybe you got a big call that you have to make. You want nice noise isolating fit. Guess what? You want Raycons. E25s, best ones yet. Every day. Wear beautiful, comfortable in your ears. These things are awesome. 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, and I love the fit, the comfort design. It's just awesome. That nice noise isolating fit. It really feels like, hey, I'm talking to somebody, and I don't have to worry about the chaos and craziness behind or around me. And that's what I love. No dangling wires, no stem start. Well under $100. Well under $100. Are you listening to me? Plus, I'm going to save you guys even more money. Right now, go to buyraycon.com/Chad. Another 15%. Boom. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Save yourself another 15% on the best earbuds around. Period. Case closed. End of story. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Experiencing separation anxiety? That's dumb. Check out Chad 24/7 at his website, ChadBensonShow.com, and on iTunes, free. The Chad Benson Show. Never feel lonely again.
Murder hornets! Yeah! They're not murder hornets. They're giant Asian hornets. That's what they're called. So we call them murder hornets as if that softens it. Well, we just can't wait because they murder bees. Not like there's going to be a trial. How funny would that be, though? You think there should be a trial? There's that woman got eaten by an alligator in Florida. I know that's not a shock. By the way, she wasn't the sharpest either. Just to let you guys know, she got a little too close. It was one of those things where you, as we always say, producer Phil, remind everybody about nature.
Nature will mess you up.
Will mess you up. So 10-foot alligator, May 1st, Kiowa Island in South Carolina. 57-year-old woman. She's been fascinated with said alligator. As you do. You get fascinated. Giant dinosaur. How do you know it's an alligator? Crocodiles. Alligators have overbites. Usually. Crocodiles will have thinner snouts. Alligators have overbites. So, it's just one of the ways you can tell. But she was fascinated because this alligator had killed a deer. And she thought, well, I'm smarter than the deer. And she thought wrong, by the way. She thought wrong. She was not smarter than the deer. You know how I know? Because she got way too close to it. Way too close. She's a 5-foot, 100-pound woman. She told her friend before she was gobbled up, I don't look like a deer. And she moved closer to the alligator in the super hold my beer moment. What do you think the alligator did? Tim for 1,000. Bit her on the leg, Chad? Absolutely correct. Bit her on the leg, pulled her into the water. Friend tried to rescue her. By then it was too late. She said when she was getting bit, I guess I won't do this again. Moments later, boom, underneath the water. No signs of the alligator or the woman for about 15 minutes. That's it. That's what happens. Alligator was holding on to her leg. So it dragged her under. Then the alligator resurfaced, and she was inside of his mouth. They fired several shots at it, killing the alligator, which is always amazing. Like, there wasn't even a trial by his peers. How funny would that be? Look over, and there's just a bunch of alligators sitting inside a jury box. What's going on? What's happening? Steve ate somebody. Oh, did you, Steve? I didn't know. It got close. It's dark. I don't see well. You guys know that. She wasn't very smart. But that's not going to happen with these hornets. The giant Asian hornet is not here setting up shop. Couldn't fly over here. Was probably dead when it arrived on a cargo ship, most likely. So we don't have to worry about that. Plus, if you're in warm areas, like super warm areas, like here in the Southwest, you're pretty okay. Because they tend to go into foresty kind of areas. So you'd be all right. Get eaten by an alligator. My God. Darwin's continuing to prove everybody right. That his awards are the best. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
More than 1 million Texans have filed for unemployment. This salon owner fought back, defying state and local orders to reopen. The judge today gave her a way out, but she didn't take it. Salon owner Shelley Luther and her attorney Warren Norrid stood their ground.
There's a remedy of $500 to 6 months. You will not speak over me.
Defiant that her salon will not close. Luther knew that she was risking a possible fine and jail time.
Why did you reopen?
Because I had no other choice, because I couldn't feed my family.
That's not good enough. Salon owner, like many other people, reopen because they fear financial ruin, and they also fear the fact that they're in a weird position because there is a lot of people out there that economically are in a weird position where they're not getting the loans, they're not getting unemployment, they are struggling mightily, and they have no choice. She's being told you can't do it. She's been saying, you can't do it. And she said, no, I have to because I need to feed my family.
Putting your own interest ahead of those of the community in which you live. That they disrespected the executive orders of the state, the orders of the county, and this city.
I have to disagree with you, sir, when you say that I'm selfish, because feeding my kids is not selfish. I have hairstylists that are going hungry because they'd rather feed their kids. So, sir, if you think the law is more important than kids getting fed, then please go ahead with your decision, but I'm not going to shut the salon.
She's not going to do it. Not going to do it. $1,000 fine, and she faces jail time. People are looking up and saying, what do I do? How do I go about doing this? How do I go about feeding my family? Because even the money that's coming in isn't enough to sustain what people have worked hard for. And it's funny that the way the judge came at her was like she was selfish. You're feeding your family selfish? That's selfish? We'd all like to stay at home and have lots of money and not do anything. But the reality of life is 99% of us have to get up and go out and do our thing. People were coming to her, so obviously those people weren't worried. So what do? What did the judge do?
The judge found Luther guilty of civil and criminal contempt of court. Luther was taken into custody, sentenced to 7 days in jail, one for each day her salon was open after the court ordered her to close, plus $1,000 for each day that it was open, totaling $7,000. She'll continue to be fined $1,000 for each day that it's open until Friday. Attorney Warren Norred said they will appeal, mocking the judge.
If you're not willing to die for your fellow countryman, then it's you that is selfish. Maybe the vulnerable could just stay inside and order pizza.
That's not very nice. That's the reality of the way that a lot of this is going. Younger generation, other people that are able and seeing their livelihoods go away are starting to ask the question, why are all of us sacrificing for what? It's being asked. Let's not pretend that it's not. Let's not pretend that people aren't looking around saying to themselves, self? Grandma and grandpa and those who are vulnerable need to shelter in place. Everybody else needs to get on with their life. That's the way Sweden's done it. Sweden's come out and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to learn to live with this thing. Other countries are heading in that direction pretty fast. Well, their numbers are greater than the numbers. Their numbers are higher, but only because the other countries haven't really participated. And their thought process is you guys are going to come out, there's going to be exposure, there'll be a spike, your numbers will grow, we'll have built up some sort of immunity, we'll have been into a situation where we're learning to live with this, and you're going to still be slogging along. We have people going to jail for trying to earn a living. That's insane. Absolutely insane. Here in Phoenix, we have a couple sheriffs, one of them Mark Lamb of Live PD fame, out in my county, Pinal County. And he's not and hadn't been enforcing over the last several weeks the laws when it comes to certain small shops. And his thought process is, constitutionally, how is it we let this place open over here that sells goods as well as they may sell a couple groceries, and we can't let this person over here open who also sells goods? That's not fair. Constitutionally, that's not fair. We're telling you got to act like this, but these people can do that. It's a risk factor. What is your risk? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to go out and live your life and take whatever's coming potentially? But we act as if this thing is a death sentence. It's not a death sentence. What it is a serious thing that we need, and we're finding more out about on a day-to-day basis. But it's not gone anywhere. It's not. It's gone nowhere at all. It's still here, and it's going to continue to be here until either we eradicate it in some way, shape, or form through a vaccine that is 100% spot on, or we find a therapeutic thing that helps us fight it, along with a vaccine that's similar to the flu shot, and we learn to live with it, or it disappears on its own. I couldn't tell you which way it's going to go. But what I do know is at some point in time, people as individuals, I've said they have a breaking point. They're going to have to make a decision for themselves. You're going to have to make a decision for yourself. What are you willing to risk? And we say the word risk. Every day there's a risk. There's a risk of you driving home every day that something may or may not happen. There's a risk everywhere in everything that we do, whether you're getting on an airplane, whether you are driving in a car, whether you're walking down the street because a car could, there's a risk all over. Well, Chad, the difference is here is I could spread this. How would you even know? Most people have no idea. They've not tested for any antibodies. European countries from Germany to Sweden are all saying that they're looking at a position where 98 to 99% of people that get this will never know they had it. Imagine the giant spread that's that. They believe that when all is said and done, it'll be a little bit more dangerous than the flu, although the net it throws is bigger, and because we don't have a therapeutic treatment, you see the dangers of it. But everybody has a breaking point when it comes to their livelihood. What's your breaking point? Restaurants around the country are trying to figure out what they're supposed to do as they try to slowly reopen. Some people are going to go back. They're going to go back immediately. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to be put off by several different things, wearing the gloves and wearing the mask, and it's just going to feel awkward, so they may not go back. There are some people that are afraid at every door handle. Every room they walk in is potentially death. And they want no part of this. At the end of the day, everybody's going to start taking in all the stock that they have in the world that's out there, and they're going to look at everything, including their bank account, the things they've built, what's going on in their life, and they're going to make certain decisions. This woman, a hairstylist, her decision was, I'm going to open up because I got to feed my kids. People obviously showed up. Here's something. Well, we can start arresting people for showing up at places. What do you think of that? You show up to get your hair done somewhere. Shouldn't you also be fined and arrested? That's what we're going to do? It's insane. It is. We're going to have to ask real questions soon. And those questions, as Marco Rubio said yesterday, let's not forget the reason that we are doing what we're doing, which isn't to stop this thing. It was to get ourselves in a position to have our healthcare system prepared for what potentially could be an onslaught. It wasn't to make it go away and to get down to zero. People are going to start asking questions, and then people are going to start becoming conspiracy theorists, and then things are going to blow. People are ready to try to get on with their life and to see how they live with this. Maybe that's you. And I get a lot of blowback because a lot of people out there say, oh, no, Chad, you should stay inside for a long time. If this thing takes a year or two, that's what we do. There is nothing after this. If we stay in for a year or two like this, when you go outside, you're going to find poverty, you're going to find death, you're going to find ruin, you're going to find years and years of a slow rebuild with no guarantee that we'll get back to where we are. People are starting to ask questions, not only of their government, but also of themselves, of what are they willing to do. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. My pillow. Get yourself a good night's sleep. Best thing you can do for yourself. Trust me, I know. Love My Pillow. Right now, Mike Lindell's done something awesome. He is switched over, started making PPEs. So, like masks and whatnot for all of the healthcare workers. That's what he's done with his production line. So he's got a warehouse full of stuff. He needs to get all of that out. So he's doing a buy one, get one free on everything. The Supreme My Pillows, the Dream Sheets, all of the, everything. You name it. It's a buy one. It's a get one free. It's incredible. You get a 6-day money-back guarantee made right here in the US of A. And a 10-year warranty. Everything's machine washable and dryable. You will love these. Go to the new radio listener specials at MyPillow.com. Type in code Benson. You'll enjoy the savings on the way out. If you order Mike Lindell's book, which is a great book, talk about rag to riches, he's going to throw in free shipping on your order, and he's going to give you a $25 gift card towards your next purchase. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
I, you, he, she, it. Lucy is a girl.
Point of personal privilege. Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Shut up, boo. Ain't nobody got time for this.
This is the Chad Benson Show.
Case of Ahmaud Arbery, a 25-year-old Georgia man who police say was chased, shot, and killed while jogging. CNN has obtained video of Arbery being shot and killed on February 23rd. The video appears to show Arbery jogging in a neighborhood outside Brunswick, Georgia, near a pickup truck with two armed men. A physical confrontation between Arbery and one of the men ensues. 3 gunshots are heard before Arbery falls to the ground. And I want to warn you, the video is disturbing.
Yeah. It is disturbing. You had a guy who just looks to be jogging along in a neighborhood, doesn't seem to be doing anything outside of that. And the next thing you know, there is 2 shots. It is crazy. And yes, the guys are white, and yes, he is black.
Shock, horror, outrage, frustration. The video, as some people have told me, it made them ill. Others say it brought them to tears. There's been a tremendous amount of frustration here for months now because many people felt that due to the pandemic, the story had not received the notoriety that it needed. And also due to the lockdown that the state had, the stay-at-home order, and the fact that large crowds weren't allowed. People couldn't demonstrate. They couldn't vent their frustrations. They couldn't say how unjust they believe all of this has been.
Yeah. So it is just a normal neighborhood, right? Like, especially in the South, you've got some of those overhanging trees, and it looks like a nice neighborhood. And he's just running down the street, and there's a white pickup truck, and they're kind of stopped in the middle of the street. The driver gets out, and there's a guy in the back of the pickup truck, which you already know is not a good sign. And the guy in the truck has a rifle, gets out, confronts him. They get into a skirmish. He's fighting for his life. Then the guy in the back also has a gun, and it's chaos, and the camera's a little wobbly because it's like one of those, I think it's like it's a cell phone camera, but I think somebody's like filming, everybody has those cameras down the car, and it is nuts. And you're thinking to yourself, what in God's name are you two doing?
According to the police report, the 2 white men in the truck are Gregory and Travis McMichael, a father and son. And Gregory McMichael, who police say was the one standing in the bed of the truck, is a former investigator for the local district attorney. Police say he told them he and his son were chasing Arbery because they believed he looked like someone who they thought was responsible for a number of recent break-ins in their Brunswick, Georgia neighborhood.
And that's why they were chasing him. This was a citizen arrest. It was not a citizen's arrest.
The important reason why it could not be a citizen's arrest is that under that statute, a citizen would actually have to observe a crime taking place. Ahmaud Arbery is only observed running down the road.
Yeah, because he looked like somebody they thought had broken into neighborhoods, homes there. They didn't see him do it. So they went and decided that they were going to be cops and be the good guys, and they're idiots. It's the best way to describe it. Best case scenario is they're morons and idiots. And that's the best case scenario for them. People should be pissed. But because there's a lot of stories out there that have gone completely under the radar because COVID-19, the coronavirus, now, you know, the murder hornets, those things have just done a number on the media cycle. This is a story that's very real. You see it. It is disturbing. This is jogging down the street. I mean, think about that. You go out for a jog and somebody shoots you. Now, the whole story's going to come out. We'll hear everybody's story. We live in a country where you're innocent until proven guilty. But based on the evidence I see with my own eyes, those two have a lot of splaining to do. And they're going to probably have a lot of time to do it. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
That people aren't going to accept it, they won't accept it, and they shouldn't accept it. We have a great country. We can't keep it closed. I mean, I've had doctors say, well, why don't we close it for a couple of years? This is the United States of America. I created, with a lot of other very talented people and the people of our country, the greatest economy in the history of the world. And then one day they said, we have to close our country. Well, now it's time to open it up. And you know what? The people of our country are warriors.
You didn't create anything, so let's just slow your roll. But you did help facilitate the growth of the country. That I will give you. 100%. If you're going to take the blame, and everybody wants to assign blame because we're into that, like, whose fault is this? You've got to give him credit. And I can't say that he failed this economy because of this. I've also seen that. You know, Nancy Pelosi came out a couple weeks ago and said, this is all Trump's fault, the economy. Really? Really? You clown. No. But America's not going to stand for it. We need to reopen. We want to reopen. How do we go about doing it? It's very interesting. So this guy, his name is Johan Giesecek, or Gies. Yeah, I can't. He's Swedish. He is an epidemiologist. The guy is leading, along with the Mr. Teller, what Sweden is doing over there. And it's very interesting. And by the way, he's not some kook that, like, I was talking to somebody yesterday. He's like, yeah, that's probably some kook scientist who's not even really a scientist. I'm like, you're right. He's a physician, professor of emeritus at the Karolinska Institute of Stockholm. He also happens to be a molecular structure biologist, as well as an infectious disease epidemiologist, but he has no idea what he's talking about. So there you go. And he's also part of the strategic and technical advisory group for this thing called the World Health Organization. And he didn't buy a lot of the crap that they were talking about. But he brought up some great points about what Sweden's doing. He said, first of all, we knew what was coming. He goes, but does everybody else know what's happening? And by the way, do you even know how to get out of it? That's huge. Like war, right? We talk about that with war. Like, we're great at getting into stuff, but nobody ever has a plan to get out of it.
Because I don't think any government that I know gave a minute's thought about how they would get out of the different lockdowns that are installed. Take a school closure, for example. If you close the schools, when are you going to open them? What's the criteria? I don't think anyone thought about that when the closure was decided on.
No, I don't think anybody did. Because I think people thought, because what you have is, and it's different in countries like Sweden or many other countries, because it's one uniform thing. We have 50 different states that operate independently of the federal government. And inside of those states, we have little itty bitty municipalities and some bigger ones who operate even in different capacity than the states themselves. So you're looking at 2-3 times removed from certain things. So some of them were making their decision to do certain things based on, well, this seems like the right thing to do. But nobody ever thought about, are we going to be heading back? How do we do this? What does it look like? Just like with the economy. Sweden's economy hasn't really suffered. The suffering that is going on in a lot of Sweden's economy is based on the fact that a lot of other people and nations around the country, around the world, are suffering as well. But he's not finished.
Seeing is a tsunami of a rather mild infection spreading around the globe. And I think there's very little chance to stop it by any measure we take. Most people will become infected by this, and most people won't even notice. We have data now from Sweden that shows that between 98 and 99% of the cases have had a very mild infection or didn't even realize they were infected.
Think about that. 98 to 99% of people had a mild infection based on their data. Was their data any good? I think their data is okay. You can't pick and choose here. And this is the problem with this thing. It's coming from here. It's flying over there. It's flying. But these things are important in getting back to the world of us getting back to a normal way of life. And why it's important is because part of the thing, especially when it comes to the economy, is getting back out there in the world and working and spending money, feeling comfortable knowing that your job's not going anywhere, feeling comfortable knowing that, hey, I can go out and do some stuff and be around people without having to worry about being infected with something that they see as a death sentence, and it's not.
Wow. So we have this spread of this mild disease around the globe, and most of it is happening where we don't see it. It's among people that don't get very sick, spread it to someone else that doesn't get very sick. And what we're looking at is a thin layer at the top of people who do develop disease, an even thinner layer of people that go into intensive care, and an even thinner layer of people who die. But the real outbreak is happening where we don't see it.
Yeah, that's the real outbreak, which is us, right? That's the real outbreak as far as the average person. Many of you listening would probably be surprised if you tested today, you test positive for the antibodies. And you'd be like, I didn't even know I had it. So the death toll, because we see the number, we see all of these things, and we hear that it's this percent or that percent, and that's the number that everybody looks at, and oh my Lord.
Now, you mentioned that the overwhelming majority of people who get this disease have no symptoms or very minimal symptoms. Do we even know the real fatality rate of coronavirus? And what is it?
Well, it's around 0.1%.
We were told it was 3% initially, 2%. Are you saying now if it's 0.1, that's pretty much the same fatality rate as the regular flu, isn't it?
I think it's a bit higher, actually. I had said before in Sweden that this is like a severe influenza. I don't think that's completely true. It will be a bit more severe than influenza, but not maybe double, but not tenfold.
Not tenfold, maybe double, but not tenfold. Ask yourself, if you hear something like that, if you see the numbers and realize that the majority of the people that are dying have underlying health conditions, that even if they've got the flu, it would cause a real problem. Yeah, people who are healthy get the flu and die. So we act like the flu only affects a certain amount of people. Kids get the flu and die. Adults who are healthy get the flu and die. It does happen. Data is important because with data, we can start to see how this thing can play itself out. And part of that is getting to the point where we can understand justify in our own mind how to get back out there. And that is important. That is absolutely important. I'll go over this again. Wharton School of Business, University of Pennsylvania. 3 scenarios to reopening. Scenario 1, stay-at-home orders continue. 117,000 deaths by the end of June. Almost 19 million jobs lost. Most of those jobs won't be coming back. Scenario 2, partial reopening, half-assery I call it. 162,000 additional deaths, 14 million jobs lost. Scenario 3, all states fully reopened, 350,000 deaths, 500,000 jobs lost. Questions are being asked across the board about what to do. Every state's going to make their own choice. But once we go, we have to go. Because the one thing I don't ever hear being asked that needs to be asked and actually answered is, what are you going to do when there is a spike? Because there will be a spike. And what are you going to do when it comes back and it's a little bit more of a spike? Are you going to shut things down again? Because business owners, many of them I've talked to, restaurant owners especially, say they can withstand this. They can't withstand the second one. And you would see 50 to 60% of small businesses and restaurants go out of business. That's 18.6 million jobs, and many of those won't be coming back. And when they do, it'll be a long time before we get back to that level. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. This is absolutely hilarious. So Jim Justice, governor, West Virginia, Republican. He used a bad word. You can hear it. He used a bad word. He denies it.
I encourage all businesses that are allowed to open to do so only if they can follow the guidelines to keep West Virginians safe. Today at our news briefing, there was an audio glitch, and it sounded like that I had said a bad word, a word that I would never say, nor have I ever said. No possibility in any way, shape, form, or fashion. If they can follow the guidelines to keep West Virginians safe.
First of all, he denied it. You can hear it. Maybe you screwed up. I don't think you meant it, obviously. But I love the deny. I would never, ever, ever, ever say it. You would say something like that. Don't ever say you would never say that. Producer Phil, I'm going to ask you an honest question, like you'd be honest with me. How many times a day do you accidentally drop the F-bomb?
Never accidentally at all.
Yeah. Do you cuss, Chad? Blanking, yeah. Are you kidding me? I'm like, son of a, I got to work on not doing that. Of course. Now, our crack team has uncovered some other stuff, the unedited version of Jim Justice's denial, and we're crack team.
Today at our news briefing, there was an audio glitch, and it sounded like that I had said a bad word, a word that I would never say, nor have I ever say. No possibility in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
Love it. I love the denial too. You said it. Get over it. Sorry, it was an accident. My God, look at the president we have now. How many F-bombs a day do you think he drops behind closed doors? By the way, speaking of Jim Justice, pretty successful cat, too. It's worth about $1.2 billion, mining magnate, I guess they would call him. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. But he blankety blank is successful. I'll tell you that right now. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Car Shield shall blankety blank shield you from blankety blank things that may blankety blank happen to you. You've got a car. You love it. Got a great deal on it. Paid cash. But you don't have a warranty. It's got some newer stuff, the electronics, the GPS, and all that stuff. And you're worried, what if this goes out? What's that going to cost? Well, it probably costs a lot. So get yourself some Cash Shield to protect you in the inevitability at some point in time something's going to go wrong. Maybe your car's a little bit older. Worry about the transmission and whatnot. Car Shield. Plans start as low as $99 a month. For that, you get a rental car for free. You get 24/7 roadside assistance and a rental car. And you get to choose the shop. So you call them up, say, hey, my car broke down. Something happened. They say, Do you need us to take it somewhere? Yeah, if you could, they'll come pick it up. And you get to choose where you want it to go. They get them paid directly. You pay a small deductible. Again, plans start as low as $99 a month. Blankety blank indeed. Call 800-CAR-6000. Mention code Benson. That'll save you 10% right off the top. That's 800-CAR-6000. Code Benson saves you 10%. Or carshield.com, carshield.com. Use code Benson to save 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad, blankety blank, Benson Show.
Set Chad straight. Text the show, 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show.
This weekend's been really rough. I quarantined with some friends. We tried to go to this restaurant, but it was takeout only. So we went to my friend's house, who has a patio, and we all quarantined there together. We would try to go to Palm Springs, but the Airbnb I usually get is booked. So then we did a quarantine hike, and then quarantined at my friend's pool, and now I'm just home, super bored, but I am meeting up with some people later, so I can't wait for this all to be over.
That's a real person, by the way. I was quarantining, and it was like a zoo. What? Yeah. Just very upset. Can't quarantine the way that he wants to. Because, quarantining is mightily important, and if you can quarantine with as many as possible, you're going to be like, this is all right. I'm enjoying this. This is a good thing. It's the way I think a lot of people are feeling right now. God, if I only had another 15 or 20 friends that I could hang out with while I quarantine, this would be awesome. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Producer Anthony just sent me something on the old email of a guy who was trying. I think it was one of those things. He's at home and he's got his cat and he's trying to be funny and bring his cat in on the meeting and why he wants to name his cat the president of whatever company. When the cat decided he didn't want any part of that, and he latches out and freaks out and goes cat crazy. You know that part where their fur's flying and they're going and their eyes are closed and they're just swinging and he couldn't get it off and it's starting to rip his pants. And it's just, first of all, it is everything that is a cat. This cat's pissed because why? Because you're home. When the cat made the arrangement that you could live there. Wait, what, Chet? The cat made the... bear with me, right? Cat mind. Cat makes the arrangement. Hey, you could stay here with me, but there's some house rules. I can sleep wherever I want, whenever I want. At any given time, I choose the right to wake you up when you're in the deepest sleep by jumping on top of you and kneading my nails deep into your chest. At the same time, you're not allowed to touch me unless I allow you to touch me. I also will at improper times jump up and knock things off stuff to watch that fall because I find it amusing. And oh, by the way, I'm going to poop in that box and I need you to clean it out as much as possible, especially right before or after you've eaten. And above everything else, I will need food and you have opposable thumbs. This is the arrangement. You must be gone most of the day. So that's the deal the cat makes. And then you're like, fine. Then pandemic hits. And Cat's like, hey, when we made this arrangement, you promised me you were going to be gone like 15 hours a day. You were only going to come at home and you were going to feed me. And then you were going to leave to go to the other room where you slept so I could sleep anywhere I'm not supposed to. And that arrangement has seemed to be broken. Maybe I need to find a new roommate. Just think about that. That's how cats think. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. I like that. Instagram, we're putting up a new website here in the next day or two. I'll have some new cool stuff on there. It is Nurse Appreciation Day. Think of all the times to have Nurse Appreciation Time. This is one of those times you're like, whoa, that is, makes you think. Really does. Have yourself a wunderbar rest of your hump day. We got you over the hump. Not too far away from Friday. Thursday's going to be here before you know it, like tomorrow. One more sleep till Thursday, two more sleeps till the weekend. Have a good rest of your day. We'll do it again tomorrow. As always, night, night, Jack.
Chad Benson Show.